I want to speak today about discouragement. How to stop discouragement. It's a simple message. But the reason why I've chosen is I don't know, but have you ever been discouraged in your life? Have you ever been disheartened? Have you ever been dispirited that you were so excited, so enthusiastic about something, and as you step into it, the results, the things you experience caused you to be discouraged, caused you to want to stop short, caused you to want to give up, caused you to want to quit, caused you to feel sad and down and not want to keep progressing. Have you ever been in that state before? If you've never been in that state before, then I guess you've probably not tried a lot of things that takes you out of your comfort zone and stretches your mind and stretches your heart and stretches you and calls you to pray more and to seek God more. If you've not been doing those things, then I encourage you to start taking those steps, because whatever it is in you that God placed, of course, in you is for the outside world. You see, the circle of influence starts with you as an individual. There is a time where you build yourself, you build your individual, the personality that God wants you to become. You start building that, and then after you've built that, you move on to building people around you. They start seeing and hearing and knowing that there is growth around you, and then from there you move to your community, and then from your community you move to your world, and then you influence from your personal growth, you start growing others. That is how it works. But in the course of becoming that, there are a lot of struggles and discouragements that you will face as you move in that direction, as you grow in that direction, as you try to become who you were created to be, whether it's discouragement from the people in your vicinity, whether it's discouragement from the limitations that you have around you. We all live in a certain box. We are all limited by certain things, whether it's limited by finance, whether it's limitation by demographics, whether it's limitations by capacity, whether it's limitations by talent. We all have these limitations, and if depending on how we respond to these limitations, it can either cause us to be discouraged or to be encouraged. And I want you today to look at some of the ways to understand discouragement so that you can overcome discouragement in 2021, so that you will not quit, you will not stop short, you will not, give up, but you will keep going and moving forward when you encounter discouragement in your life as you go. Maybe you are a student, maybe you have a business, maybe you work for somebody. The possibilities in 2021, as we saw in the last years, is that anything can happen. Anything can happen. But when you know and you're prepared in your spirit that no matter what comes your way, you are going to keep moving forward. You're going to overcome it. You're going to keep moving with God. Then you are prepared to, face whatever is coming your way. Most of the times we are surprised by life. And one of the things about surprises is that sometimes it can hit you hard. It can really kick you off your feet. And this is what I want you to avoid. I want you to be positioned for the struggles that may come your way, positioned for the challenges, the disappointments, the expectations that will not be realized, the dreams that will not be achieved, the things that we hope for that might be delayed. These are the things I want you to be prepared for, and also understand even prayers that you might pray that might not be answered right away, or that might also not be answered at all. Because I don't know why, and I don't have the answers. I know that many theologians say that God always answers our prayers. But I know that people have also spoken to me that they have prayed, and some of their prayers have gone unanswered. And maybe it is for their own good, and maybe not. But if you do not prepare for these things, you might get discouraged, you might get hit down, you might get struck, you might become sorrowful, you might lose hope and give up on the faith you have, on the things that you're called to do. And so let's go to the book of Psalms 42:5, it says that, "Why, my soul, are you downcasted? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Saviour and my God." Why, my soul, are you so downcasted? David is one of the greatest personalities in the scriptures. David and Goliath. Even if you do not know anything about the scriptures, I'm very sure you've heard about the David and Goliath story, the small and the big story. But David was a young man who was keeping the sheep of his father, always outside in the fields, protecting the sheep of his father, who became prominent by killing the greatest enemy that was facing their nation in that time. He was one of the greatest warriors, one of the greatest leaders, kings, and also one of the greatest sinners, if you want to call it. He one time orchestrated to kill one man so that he can marry his wife. He wasn't the best of the best when it came to character-wise, but that is also normal. That is also okay, because character-wise we all have flaws, but God deals with our weaknesses. He has mercy and grace. He let us face the consequences of our shortcomings, but yet there is enough grace to save us from it. He has enough grace to deliver us from every evil that could come our way. And so what happened with David is that David, who is the strongest man, who has one of the greatest military in his time, here we find him in the book of Psalm 42 verses 5, asking his soul, "Why are you so discouraged?" In some translations, it says, "Why are you so downcasted? Why are you so discouraged? Why are you so disturbed within me?" And here is the greatest, one of the strongest people in the scriptures. And that is why I love the scriptures, because the scriptures give me example of people who did great things with their life, but yet struggle with their humanity. They had to deal with the weaknesses of being human. They had to go through the same emotions and fluctuations and up and downs that, like all of us, with God in their boat, with God assisting them, with God helping them, with God encouraging them and pushing them forward. They went through and did great things, but yet at some point in their life, they had to struggle. They had to go through situations that they didn't have control over, and they had to, position themselves so that they can keep moving forward. But yes, still at some point they got discouraged. They felt like quitting. They felt like, what is this that I'm facing now? How is tomorrow going to be? I can't understand, why am I in this situation? I don't feel like I have the strength to keep going forward. I don't have the strength to keep doing this. I don't have the strength. I don't know why I'm so downcasted. I don't know why I'm so discouraged. I don't know, but I feel like I do not possess enough strength to keep moving forward. And I know most of the time you and I will come to that situation, come to that position. There are times where I've been trying to do things that I believe is good. It's good for the community. It's good for people. And I'm trying to rally people around me and trying to bring people around me so that we can undertake and do things that will help and improve people's life. But it is not always the response that I get. I don't get the enthusiasm. I don't get people excited. It's not like I'm bad in casting visions. Or maybe I am. But whatever the situation may be, sometimes there are things that I've expected in the last 2-3 years that had gotten me to the point where I wanted to just throw in the towel and sit back. I remember since, I think 2015, no, not 2015, 2017, actually I started looking for halls. I remember when we launched the Nexus Fellowship for the first time, we were meeting back then in another town in Belgium. And we would gather in a small place, and I didn't really know what God wanted me to do because I was still young and I was still searching and I was still trying to understand what all this calling is about. And I had great enthusiasm. I wanted to do something that will help people, but yet didn't have all the knowledge or the support or the guidance. And I had to go through all this by myself. And in that situation, it was so easy for me to get discouraged. It was so easy when things didn't pick up or become what I was expecting to just say, okay, you know what? You told me to try this. I did it. It didn't work. I'm done with it, and I'm done with you. But my hope in him never changed. And that is one thing that I want to encourage you with, that no matter what the situation is, if you know that what you are doing, what you're called to do is exactly what your life is about, and it is good and it is great and it's going to help people, don't get discouraged. Don't give up on it. Keep moving forward. Keep pursuing it. Get discouraged, get back up, and keep going. You see, when David, in the Psalm 42, as I just read, he was removed far away from his home. He was in Jordan, and he normally have to be in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is where he has his worship place, where he can be in the presence of God, where he can pray to his God and be surrounded by people of God. I will encourage you to read the whole chapter of the 42 of Psalms. And you will see how this man has been removed from his comfortable place to a place that he doesn't know what he's doing. And now he's struggling to get himself back up in the spirit. One thing that I want to say is this, that when you are in the environment where encouragement is easy to get. For instance, when we were allowed to meet in person back then, I don't know who church you belong to, but when you're allowed to meet in person and you go to church in the morning and you're surrounded and people are singing and clapping and dancing and the music and the lights and everything, you feel encouraged. You feel like God is coming tomorrow and you're ready and hallelujah and dancing and everything. But now maybe the way you're meeting is a bit different. Even if you're allowed to meet in person, the distance, 1.5 meter distance, is making everything, putting everything in a distance. Everything in a distance. And when things become distance, it doesn't feel personal anymore. Even right now, this way of ministry does not feel personal to some people. Why? Because it is in a distance. It is in a distance, but because it is in a distance does not mean that you cannot make it personal. The only time it becomes personal is when you yourself are ready to jump in it. And if you do not take care because it is in a distance, it might discourage you. Distance, discourage. Is when you your courage, when you distance yourself from your courage, the enemy gets the way to come in between the distance you've created and the courage you have. Now the enemy gets to operate in between here. And so the goal is to make sure that you do not diss your courage. Make sure you maintain your courage, or you diss it, create a foothold for the enemy, and now you have to struggle to bring back your courage. Courage is not always easy to maintain. You know, when you are in the right environment and everything is going well, yeah, it's very easy for you to maintain your courage. Here is this guy, another very important personality in the scriptures called Joshua. Joshua has been with one of the greatest leaders of the scriptures, Moses. Moses was raised in the king house, in the house of Pharaoh. He has been raised as a future king, because he was the son of the daughter of Pharaoh. And so he has been trained and groomed to understand the nitty-gritties of kinship. And then he makes a mistake. I tell you, I love the fact that there are so many flawed people in the scriptures. God has always worked with flawed people. You are not the first. I'm not the first. But we got to keep up with God. We got to keep trying to do the right things, to maintain the right characters. But even that, there is enough grace. But we have to allow the grace to always reform us, to form us, to keep, making us better and to represent God in a more good representable personality. That is what I'm trying to say. But in other words, what I'm saying is also that he has been raised as a king. Yet still he had flaws. God sees his flaws. He killed somebody. He killed a person who was fighting with an Israelite, and he flees because now he becomes the enemy of the state. And God finds this guy in the desert somewhere, instruct him to do something that he had no capacity besides the training that he has had in the king's house and also following or taking care of his father's in-law ships in the desert. And God says, I want you to go back to the same place where they are looking for you to probably kill you. Go back, speak to that guy who wants to kill you and tell him that I have instructed you to come and take the people who are working for you away from you. I mean, come on, man. God, this is, I mean, I don't know how this guy did this, but it's like being put in a position where you have no choice, or being actually what it did for me when I read this scripture, it looks like Moses' life was like being tricked to go back so he can be caught, and killed. How can you go back to someone who is looking for you to kill you, and not only going back, and maybe probably you should have gone back and apologized to him and tried to negotiate so that he can release you. But here's Moses going back, and not only going back as a fugitive, he's going back to negotiate the release of the people working for Pharaoh. It takes only the grace and the Spirit of God to be able to do such things that are impossible to man, because this is almost impossible. But God is always a God of possibilities. He will, if he has called us, if he has brought us into his kingdom as his children, then he knows what he can do with us, no matter how flawed we are, no matter the things that discourages us. Because Moses' situation here is the most discouraged situation he can ever be in. Why? Because he's never going to become a king because of what he has done. Yet still God picks him up, and through miraculous ways, let him become the king of his nation. Even though he's not anointed as a king, Moses became the leader, the first leader after slavery for the people of Israel, because he led them out of Egypt. From a discouraged position to an encouraging position. And here is this guy, his protege, his mentee, Joshua, like I said, who has been following Moses all this while, and he's encouraging. And this Moses is powerful. He speaks to God. He sees him face to face. The anointing of God is on Moses, and Joshua is watching this man all the time. And he's encouraged, excited, and feel like, yes, we can do this as long as he tells me what to do and he show me how to do it and all those things. And then comes a time that Moses is taken out of the scene. What do we do now? Moses is gone. He has finished his course. Now God calls Joshua to replace this man who he has always been looking up to and tell him, now you lead. He gets scared because his courage, his source of courage was this man he has always been looking up to, and now this man is gone. I don't know about you, but have you been in that situation where the people you looked up to, maybe the job that gave you all that power, that courage, or that spouse or that friend that gave you all that courage, all of a sudden disappears, and it seems like you're all by yourself, and you feel like, God, without them I cannot do this. Without them I cannot keep moving. Without this, without that, without this, I cannot. I feel like I'm being swallowed by my situation. Because the people that used to hold me together, that used to support me, that I looked up to for strength, are no more around me. And so God speaks to Joshua and said, haven't I commanded you to be courageous? It is Joshua chapter 1, verses 8, that God speaks to Joshua, says that, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I love this. It shivers me every time I read. He said, do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you. People may not be with you. The friends you thought would be with you may not be with you. The spouse may not be with you. The money that you thought was going to come will not come. The job may be taken away from you. Your health may be in trouble. But God is with you. He is with you. The Lord your God is with you, and that should be enough. That should be the greatest hope for you to be able to resist discouragement, to stand against everything that knocks you on your feet and get back up. Because the Lord your God is with you. He has been with you in 2020. He will be with you in 2021. He will be with you in 2022. He will be with you until he calls you home. The Lord your God is with you. So do not be frightened, because there are situations that will frighten you. Discouragement comes when we are frightened. We dis our courage when we go through situations that we do not understand. So when you read the book of 2 Corinthians 4, 8 to 9, it says, for we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. These are it seems this is the rhythm of life most of the time. There is affliction, but we don't get crushed, and then we get back on our feet. Then we are perplexed, surprised. Things get out of hand, and we are not despaired. It's not like we lose ourselves completely. We are persecuted. People say all sort of things about us that you wonder, God, why are they saying all these things? What did I do? But then some of them still come back to encourage you. They do not forsake you. They do not completely abandon you. Some strike you. Some do things that destroys your image. They strike your reputation. They strike your life. They strike the people who loved you. But yet still, God does not allow you to be destroyed, because he came. John chapter 10 verses 10 that the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And so here it says that they are struck down but not destroyed. The enemy strikes us, but God came that I and you might have life and have it abundantly. God give us life. God give us energy. God fuels our lives so that we can keep rising every single day. And so no matter the discouragement that the enemy tried to throw on us, we find hope in our God. We find strength in the Spirit that Jesus Christ released after he left the earth, that dwells in us, that confirms us that we are the children of God. And so we can be in prison, we can be in the dungeon, we can lose everything, but our hope is built to nothing less but Jesus, the resurrected one, the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, the Jehovah Shammah, the God is there. He is here. He is with us. His presence is with us, and it's the guarantee of our salvation that he is with us. And so no matter the discouragement you're going to face in 2021, or life will throw at you in 2021, I want you to be encouraged. Do not distance yourself from your courage. Do not diss your courage. Do not distance yourself from the courage. I grew up walking around and listening to hip hop. I'll still love hip hop. I must confess, it might be the devil's music. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm flawed. I got problems. I got real issues, man. I love hip hop. I must confess. Confession time. You can confess your own another time. But one thing that back then when we were growing up that was common is the dissing of people. Rappers used to diss rappers, and that means that they would throw shades at their image and their personality and things like that. And so the moment there's a diss, it seems to be a conflict, a beef in between them. A beef is a ghetto term saying that people don't get along well. And so when you diss your courage, it's you not getting along well with your courage. But God does not want you to diss your courage. He wants you to stay close to your courage. I have commanded you to be courageous. So every situation, look for your courage. Courage. Courage is the thing that will serve as a carriage to your destination. As a word play over the courage will serve you as a carriage to your destination. If you take and hold onto the courage you have in God, the courage you have in God, then you have a courage to ride on to the destination, to that purpose, to that dreams, to that achievement, to that thing that God is calling you to. So do not let go of your courage. Do not distance yourself from your courage. Hold on tight to your courage. Do not give the enemy a footstool, or do not give him an opening for him to bump into your life and start causing you into despair, into hopelessness, into apathy, into passiveness, into, passive aggressiveness, to all those bitterness and pettiness and all those things that destroy people, living beings, and kill them even before they die. You are called to be alive and active. So be active in courage. I'm not going to kid you. There are a few things that I want to talk about that I think is important, because what I'm telling you, some people may take that out of context and make it look like I'm trying to tell them to live in denial of their realities. No, I'm not that preacher. I'm not that preacher. I'm not that speaker. God has not called me to tell you to deny the realities of your situation. Discouragement comes as a reason for something. We are downcasted for a reason. We go through situations that overwhelm us, like Paul was saying in the 2 Corinthians that I read, that chapter 4, 2 Corinthians 4, it says that for we are perplexed, we are thrown into all sort of these situations. We are going through the roller coasters of life daily, and sometimes things might come our way that we are not ready for. And that might throw us into discouragement. So all that I'm telling you is that with God on our side, with the hope that we have in the right thing, placed at the right place, our hope is in Him. The reason why we are not going to be discouraged, or we're not going to diss our courage, is because our courage has a source. It's come from our Father in heaven. He's always with us. And so no matter what we are going through, our understanding is that He is with us. Like the 4 Hebrew boys who were thrown into the furnace, the fiery oven. These 4 boys who refused to bow down to a king. If you do not know the story, you don't know the scriptures very well, these are the 4 Hebrew boys who refused to serve a king, and the king got so angry that he threw them into a fire that they would burn and die. But when they were thrown into the fire, God was with them in the fire. And the reason why they did not become discouraged is because they knew where their hope was. They knew where their hope was. They knew their source. And like God confirms, like the scriptures confirm to Joshua, the prodigy of Moses, it says, "For the Lord your God is with you." And so your situation might be worse. Your situation, your reality right now might be crazy. I mean, I can use the word crazy. Your situation right now might be hopeless in the eyes of unbelievers. Your situation now may look like, this is impossible. You have killed somebody and you have to run away. You have to live the rest of your life on the desert. But God says, no, they do not write your story. I write your story. I am the author and the finisher of your faith. Your story is in my hands and not in their hands. You have made this mistake and that mistake, and we have cast you, we have closed the door towards you. We do not allow you in, but God says, they do not have the authority. I have the authority. So look to me. And so I spoke about a message focused on God. Dear friends, I just came today to tell you that no matter the situation or no matter your position in today's life, you will face discouragement. But when you face discouragement, make sure that you do not distance yourself from your courage. Because when you distance yourself from your courage, you distance yourself from the courage that is taking you to your destination, the carrier, which is God, which is the Spirit of God that fuels us, that empowers us, that keeps moving us. Life is emotion. Life is motion. Okay? Life is movement. Life is forwardness. Anybody who is not progressing in life becomes sick of themselves and eventually will fall in deeper depression than they can imagine. When people feel stuck, and they feel like they cannot progress and they are stagnant and they cannot get themselves out of the things they are feeling and going through, they are discouraged. It starts with discouragement. And then they let go, and then they let go, and then they let go, and then they let go till they are consumed by the enemy. So do not distance yourself from your courage. Do not live in denial. You know what David did, that as I end the message, what David did that was so powerful, and I want to share with you, is that he did not live in denial of the state of his spirit, of his soul. He did not deny that he was downcast. He did not deny that he was discouraged. So do not deny when you feel discouraged. God created, like I just said, discouragement is for a purpose. And so the right question is to ask yourself, why are you discouraged? Why do you feel like you can't anymore? Why do you feel like giving up? Why do you feel like quitting? Why do you feel like quitting on that marriage? Why do you feel like stopping that friendship? Why do you feel like stopping that job? Why do you feel like this is not going to work? Why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like you are alone? Why do you feel like you are abandoned? Why do you feel like this is not going to work? Why do you feel? Why, my soul, are you downcasted? Because when you start doing that soul searching, when you start speaking to your soul, when you start connecting with that emotion, I told you life is motion. Do not undermine your emotions. Because if you are in motion, then you have emotions. Because you will see different things. You will go up, you will come down, you will greet, you will not greet, you will say hi, you will dance, you will sweat, you will cry, you are alive, you are emotion. Don't listen to people who try to force and to press that, squeeze that emotion out of their life. They are lifeless. Life is all about emotions. God placed emotions in us so that we can express. Of course, not over-express it, not be too dramatic, but, use that emotions to your own good. Speak to your emotions. Try to capture the sense of your emotion. David spoke to his own soul. Why do I feel the way I feel? Why am I in this state? And so there are people who may live in completely denial, but there are also people who live in complete accession. They're constant. Have you met anybody who you just met and they told you completely their history, their medical history? I'm this and I have this and I have that and I have that and I have this, and that is why I think your God cannot help me. He just closed the whole stuff. He just ended it. He has completely agreed to his state and has determined that there is no future for them to be free from the situation they find themselves in. So you have, on the other hand, the two extremes are denial and accession. They deny, they don't accept the emotions, they don't want to face the reality. And then on the other side, there's one who's like, this is who I am and I cannot change. But what I love about Paul is that Paul says, for Paul also had to go through this state of not being able to, fully live without pain or weaknesses, or he had an issue in his life that should have caused him to be discouraged. When you read the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 12:8, it says, because of this surpassingly great revelation. Now I want you to read, because I'm not going to give you any context here, so you should read the book, the 2 Corinthians 12:8. Surprisingly great revelation. So to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with God to take it away, but it was still there, I believe. So what Paul was saying is that I had an issue in my life that was troublesome to me, that was discouraging to me, and I prayed to God, God, take it away from me. But it was still there. But I think the reason for that was to keep me humble and from being conceited. A lot of us are conceited. A lot of us are conceited. But that is another topic for another time. If we will look at the flaws, the weaknesses, the insufficiencies, oh God, we will live our life in such humility, with such grace, with such mercy, that when people meet us, they will see that, yes, from afar, people may say what they want. But one thing is that when people experience you, when they come into proximity with you, they have to see the God in you. But Paul was saying, I had an issue. But I think the reason for this issue was because God wanted me to stay humble. And so what he did was not to say that I am my situation. He didn't deny also this situation he had. He said, I had a thorn in my flesh. I had something troubling me. What it is, we don't know. But God placed that thing there for a reason. And so I will not be discouraged about it, because I know he can use that situation. So I want to encourage you that when you go through discouragement, talk to yourself, speak to your soul, try to understand why you're in that situation. Do not be denied, oh, God is with me and I'm overcomer and God is with me. No, don't start throwing those Christian terms around so that you can cover what you're going through. Your emotions are important. Learn to understand why you are in that situation, and don't let your emotions stop you. Do not let your feelings stop you, but your feelings are important. Don't stop at how you feel. Don't say, I don't feel like going to church today. I'm so tired of people who say, I don't feel like this, or I don't feel like that. Life is not about how we feel. Life is more about motion. You got to keep going. And emotional intelligence tell you that you understand the state of your being, where you are. I was one time overwhelmed and I forgot my state of being, and it got me to do something that I didn't want to do. And that was that I got angry, so angry at a colleague at work that I didn't want to get angry at. But that is when you lack the emotional, the emotional intelligence to understand your state of being, because you're going through hard times. You're facing discouragement, disappointment, situations that overwhelm you. But if you refuse to understand those emotions, the reason why you're discouraged, the reason why you feel the way you feel, you will work it out on other people. You will work it out on other people. And you move, you will drive people around you. So I want to encourage you as I end the message, how to stop discouragement. You will face discouragement in 2021. That I'm very sure of. But I want to encourage you to come home. Put your hope in God, like David did, like Joshua did. Know where your encouragement, where your courage comes from. So that when you face difficulties, when you face hard times, when you face situations that are beyond you, you will know that as long as your hope is in God, as long as you put your courage in God, as long as you know from whom you stay courageous, from whom the command to be courageous has come from, You will not be frightened. You will not be dismayed. You will not distance yourself from your courage. You will not diss your courage, but you will hold on tight to your courage to keep facing every day with God in truth and not in denial. In truth and not in denial. What I want to end by saying is that whenever you face discouragement, keep praying, keep speaking to people you can trust, keep listening to encouragement messages, and I believe that you will do exploits throughout this year. I want you to keep remembering yourself as you go on throughout the year of the possibility of being discouraged, and do not allow yourself to be discouraged. I thank you for listening to this message, and I will see you next week. This has been Nexus Fellowship Online, and my name is Oscar, and God bless you for being with me throughout this message. See you on the other side.